What up, Sleeds? Welcome. All right. Today we are in interview with Boston producer, electronic wizard, Insight. For those that don't know, you will soon. Typing it in right now. Let's see. All right. Pin that. Word. Shout out everybody rolling in. Let's see here. Real Freddie Lowe, what up? Catherine Pemberton, what up? Oscar Surds, what up? Brick Records in the building, shout out. Going down a wonderful memory lane in Boston hip hop and a few. New England hip hop, whatever you want to call it. Boston's part of New England. What's good, Brick Records? Yes. Brick Records 96. We got to get you guys on here soon because I need to know the history there too. Shout out Papa D and that team that's been doing it consistent for a long time. 25 years. Jay Walls, what up? While we're waiting for Insight, anybody feel I'll just shout out any questions? I'm happy to answer them or talk about anything. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of things to say. Here No Live in the building. What up? Shout out Mark and Lionel. Just waiting here for Insight Innovates. Inside the truncator or just Insight. Kane Major in the building. What up? Yo. Let's see if I can send an invite here. Like to join. There we go. Send. Is Insight already on? Is he already here? I said it. Oh, there he is.
What up?
How are you?
I'm good. Man.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for making time today. Appreciate it.
You know it. Got to mess with the backgrounds too.
Oh yeah, what do you got going on there? You got a couple things going there. What do you got going there? Laser show?
That's the insight right there.
Oh, that's dope.
The insight effect.
I didn't know you could do that. I'll have to
I'm
try
just
that one
messing
more
around.
time.
Yeah, you gotta keep it live for the heads.
Nice. Well, I want to welcome everybody joining in right now. You're tuned into the Leeds Edutainment podcast. We're here with special guest producer, rapper, and I'm going to say electronic wizard, Insight Innovates.
What up?
See, as you can see, he's using his electronic skills to play with the backgrounds because he's the wizard. Call him the Wiz. Oh, I think the wizard. We might have lost the wizard here temporarily. He froze. Check 1, 2. You there, Insight? I'm here. We might have experienced early technical difficulties. Shout out everybody that's rolling in. I'm sure he'll be back here in a minute. What else we got? Oh, we have officially lost Mr. Sight. Nights of the Round days. Yep, we're going to talk about that for sure, Kane. Franz Bronstein, what up? Requested. Let's go. See if he's back. There he is. He's back.
I'm back.
What'd you do? Overload your phone?
Yeah, running all the developer mode stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Like I said, I want to welcome everybody to Leeds Edutainment podcast with our man Insight. And yeah, man. Wow. So many titles, so many names. Where to begin? First of all, how's everything going?
Everything's good, man. Can't complain, you know. Just gearing up for this new phase of releases. Big up Brick Records. You know, without them, I probably would have just kept stacking stuff up. You know what I mean? So it was just the perfect time to start rolling stuff out. So, but in general, your question, everything's good, man.
Good. I want to take people back. I usually when I do these, I take people back because there's a lot of good history here, and I want to go
Yeah,
back. You're originally you're from St. Thomas, correct?
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right.
From St. Thomas, I came. Actually, my family moved to New York first, and then they thought Boston was up and coming at that time.
Yeah.
So most of the family that stayed in New York, you know, kind of stayed in the Bronx, and then the rest of us moved here when I was like 5, 6. You know, they just thought it was like you know, a very technical place, up and coming for education and everything.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, we just, you know, but since then, man, I lived all around, you know, Massachusetts, just all around. Where once I started doing music, it just became wherever the rent was cheap, like, you know what I mean? So, you know, went from Boston, Dorchester, Lawrence, you know, now I'm out in Worcester, but it's like, you know, Massachusetts been the main place I've lived since I came here.
Word. When did
Yeah.
you start messing with music? How old were you?
Oh man. So we got kind of a musical family, you know. So I grew up uh, playing the piano, you know, ever since I could remember. Just we always had like instruments in the house. My
Yeah.
pops, he could play all instruments, you know. So me and my brother and sister, we would just get on the piano. We just be playing whatever, like just
Yeah.
whatever song. It was just that was like a toy. It was fun to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, so probably when I was 4, 5,
Oh wow.
I used to draw a lot too. A lot of people don't know. I was a quiet kid, really just into just art and just keeping to myself and then just drawing and painting. I used to do like a lot of paintings. And then kind of got reintroduced to music once hip hop kind of started having an impact back then. And then that's kind of music kind of took over where I used to like draw and paint murals and things like that.
Yeah.
So
So you start rapping or you start making beats first? What was the first
I
thing?
started doing both
Right.
because my thing was I just liked what I heard, and I just always in the back of my mind it would just be like I'd see the videos. I remember one time I seen a video, it was like MC Light video, and she was in a limo in the back. The producer had this box. I was like, what's that box that he's using to make those beats, right? And then and you know, I always just had the vision of the entire song. It wasn't really I was never really like, oh, I want to make a beat or I just want to rap. It was just like I just want to make hip hop music. How do I make the whole thing?
Right.
So that's kind of I've always started doing everything, just because it was just hard to find people to do the individual pieces that I needed.
Right.
And I think that kind of stayed on till now. Anytime I need to fill in the blank or I can't figure something out, whether it be like hip hop, technology, real estate, I just don't like waiting. I just want to get to the goal. I want to get to the goal and just how do I get to the end, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
What was the first piece of music equipment, hip hop music equipment you got?
It was a Prophet 2000. Oh no,
Nice.
actually, my man James from Cali, he actually got. See, I was good, but he was like he was on the dark side. Like he was out stealing equipment and doing like just
Yeah.
unspoken stuff. And he got me a Lesis drum machine. I was actually in school in Seaside, California. We had a little rap group out there. It was dope. It was one of the best memories I had because it was around the first time I started, like really started like a rap group. We was just battling people around there. I was like the kid from Boston and Cali. So it was, it
What was
was
the name? What was the name of that rap group?
Oh man, what was the name of that? Oh, SWAT. It was SWAT. So we
SWAT,
had,
nice.
yeah.
That's
And
SWAT.
this is like I've never even gotten into that side
Yeah,
of the story. Like
yeah,
most people hear my story start with the groups I had in Boston.
yeah.
But it starts like further back where
SWAT.
like so yeah, some of the stuff I talked about in the song Evolve comes from those memories and just being the East Coast dude out there. And yeah, I still talk to them cats about that. But yeah, so some of the first pieces of equipment, Elise's drum machine. Then when I really started getting into making music, I had a Prophet 2000 and just um, my man actually went into E Wurlitzer and put it in his leg pants. And this is like, and I got it like that, and yeah, most of the next batch of equipment I had got in a car accident, and then just got settlement from that, and then just bought a bunch of equipment. So
Nice.
um, yeah, from then it. I had to kind of do the best that I could with the equipment that I had. So I was
Yep.
always, then I hooked up with my man Rock. He was excellent producer. From then, and that's kind of when I really started shaping my stuff because I had equipment that people don't usually use. He saw that and was just, then we started making stuff together. Then started forming the Boston groups and the groups that I had with the cats and Lynn, like Sundu. And it was right around the time I started like I had a group, called the Knights of the Round, and that was like it was an interesting time, and we actually got into the second source. Like we were making pretty good waves, but I just think we were just in Massachusetts. You know what I mean? We're just it's so small, everybody's competing, and just but anyways, yeah. First equipment
Well,
was just
listen. I want to stop you right there because Knights of the Round Table is actually how I first heard of you.
interesting.
I think we've talked about this. We have a mutual friend. I used to call him Meister. You called him Shiz. And
Oh shit, Shiz. Oh wow.
I know Shiz quite well. But like I said, we knew him as Meister. But he was a little
Mm.
old. He was an older dude, and he was older than us. And he brought me and my friend, shout out Kane, Brendan, Colby. He brought us back a tape of Knights of the Round Table. And
Wow.
we were like wowed by it, man. We were like, this is like the Boston Wu Tang, man. And that shit was fire, man. That was my first experience really, listening to something from Boston on a really local level. I mean, obviously it was Edo, but that was like national. This was like I'm
Mm.
listening to cats from Boston, local scene, and
Right,
man, we
right.
played the hell out of that tape, man. That's how I knew about Insight. He told me Insight produced the whole. You produced the whole thing, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Because we actually had three Nights of the Round tapes.
Oh,
The
word.
first, yeah, the first one, I can't remember where I was living. I could have been, yeah, I probably was in Dorchester at that time. But
Yeah, I
we,
think you were.
yeah, the first one it had like 22 cats on it, and then I went from doing whoever was the most motivated, whoever was just like I literally our goals was ambitious, but we were young, so I was just like
Yeah,
if everybody comes to the studio with $2, we can press up, some CDs from Disc Maker.
yeah,
Literally. And nobody would come to the studio with anything. So we just was like, all right, so 10 cats came through with $2, right? So then we was able to, from there, press up a CD. Literally, you was like pressed up like 200 CDs, and then made the second tape. So the first iteration had like 22 cats. The second Nights in the Run had like 11. You know,
yeah.
um,
And which one had Target Gristle on it?
the second one
Okay,
that
that's the
that
one
was the
I had.
yeah,
That was the
okay,
one
yeah,
I
that
had.
was the second one, and that has a
Who
story in this.
who is it? What was in that group? Because Liff was in there, Ruckus was in there. Let's talk about the people in that group.
Yeah,
This is like
wow,
1996, 97, right?
yeah, they were like
Yeah.
we had like groups. We had groups within groups too.
Yeah.
Like yeah, man, I don't want to get all the names wrong, but I do have like the tape, and there's some cats like T Ruckus, Chris OC, like we had. I mean, there's a lot of cats on there. I can't
Yeah.
even remember all
And
the
Liff, and Mr.
nicknames.
Liff was in there, right?
He was in there, but Liff at that time was really. I think he was living in New York, and he would
Oh,
kind of
okay.
come through. But the main cast that was coming through they was just always at the house. This was like,
Yeah.
he would be there here and there, but he kind of had his thing going. He already had his thing going with his connects in New York,
Yeah.
and I just was always linking up with the same 10 cats coming to the lab.
Daga? Was Daga in there?
Dagger
That
was
word.
there.
Dope.
The group that I formed later with the electric company, that was
Yeah.
like me, Dagger, Mo, Anonymous, and Raheem.
Yeah.
That was, none of them was kind of there at that time.
Yeah.
Dagger was. Me and Dagger actually lived together. But that time was funny because the story around the night, that group was, every day we'd be hooking up, and just they'd be coming to the studio and we'd just be doing stuff, and the landlord would just be going crazy because we would have like 15, 20 people would be showing up. They'd be like, eventually it got out of hand. Like the landlord's wife would come upstairs, who's peeing in the front porch and like all this stuff. It was just, now, like, as a property owner, I'm like, damn, we were a nightmare. Like music
Yeah.
all day. Eventually, it just and I have stories and stories like that. Then we was doing showcases, and this is a whole nother thing. I don't really want to get into it, but we
It's all
had
good.
a thing. We did a showcase for the flavor unit and some other stuff, and end up being in talks with some people, with some labels out there, and things became kind of messy because the people that was coming to the house was threatening the A&Rs in New York, and it was, I had to
too many cooks in the kitchen.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. It became too it kind of was kind of gangster, and that wasn't really my thing.
No.
And so so I kind of ended that and just kind of moved forward with everybody, cut it down a little more, and then started doing my thing.
And you talk about doing your thing. This is, you were working on your soul. This is when you kind of really, because back that project, you were mainly the producer, right? Nights of the Round Table, you were pretty much just producing. They were really rapping a lot.
I was the same. So I was at all times I was constantly doing all things. So even then I had like albums of stuff. And a lot of cats don't know, but at that time I was more upfront about just being competing with cats. Now it's just like I don't really seek validation like that. But back then I would just show up at a house party, whoever was on the mic, I'm grabbing it and going,
hungry.
Yeah, that but that's some young shit. I kind of now I make shit regardless of who feels what I'm doing or whatever. I'm not doing it to like, again, like seek some validation. I'm doing it to get an idea out, and touch somebody that way.
Nice.
But yeah.
But so the transition into the full-time solo career was I loved the True to the Game 12-inch. I loved that 12-inch. I thought that was a good transition. And then you dropped was it the Updated Software? Was that your first solo album?
Updated Software was the first. That was, and I remember I just remember that I had a couple conversations with Papa D, and I was, at that time I just was making a lot of shit. It was like, how do I roll out all of this stuff?
Right.
And at that time it was my man Marlon. Like Marlon, we doing stuff with Inebriated. So came up with the concept with the little CD cover looking like the Cases and stuff like that. And I think they got me out of just hoarding music. You know what I mean? They got me, and it kind of that's kind of like I'm looking at now, and it's kind of the same thing. I get caught up in ideas and executing some kind of formula, going to software and then looking, try to do like fast Fourier transforms and like all these like programming concepts. And then I look by and be like, damn, like 2 years went by. So eventually, my interaction with them will be, let's do a record. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, like I got stuff right here. You know what I mean? So the transition from actually doing stuff with cats and then putting my own shit out was basically interacting with cats like that. you know,
Right.
and
So
just
Brick Records was pretty fundamental for you in the beginning.
yeah, because
Yeah.
otherwise, what would I do? I mean, I like, you know, like as a cat who's not really seeking validation like that. It
Yeah.
don't matter if somebody gives me like maybe when I was 16, I was looking for props from somebody. Oh, I hope this person hears the shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now it's just like, oh, I know they heard it, but they ain't saying shit about it. Fuck them. You know, I'm just doing this shit because I like it, and then
Yeah.
even if I take some, you know, enough like a long time to push it out,
Yeah.
now I feel like I have to, you know. So
Right.
interacting with these cats reminds me, like, you know,
Yeah.
oh, you know, we ready to do some shit, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, why am I holding on to all of
Yeah.
this shit? So
Yeah.
it's just dope. It's just dope to have cats like that to just
Yeah.
be able to remind you and actually stay doing shit to kind of pick shit up.
Yeah.
So yeah, if
And
that makes sense.
Brick Records was fundamental in so many Boston cats, New England cats getting their music out there and really kind of putting it out there to the world at a time where it wasn't really happening.
Oh
And
hell yeah, hell yeah.
they are fundamental in that. And shout out to Papa D and that whole
Yeah,
squad.
I think that story needs. I feel like that story needs to be
We'll get him
told.
on here. I'm going to get him on here eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully
And
he'll do it.
their shit where they say not giving a fuck since '96. I feel like it was really like that.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
killed it.
and you know, there's a story, there's a big story in there in terms of
Yeah,
not just Brick, but the interrelated shit that they was working with,
yeah,
to kind of push the scene in general, just
right.
globally, like the stuff that we were doing here and pushing here. You know, when I moved out
That's what I'm
to
saying.
Europe, yeah, or like to Japan and living out
Yep.
there, I'm seeing stuff happening to kind of push the scene forward, and that's before now where, you know, the boom bap shit and all the real hip hop shit is kind of trendy now, but they've been doing this. They've been for the shit that we like forever. It
Yep.
was never, you know, doing some shit because it was popular. You know what I mean? It was always doing
Yeah.
the shit. Hey, we like this shit. We're gonna do this shit,
Yeah.
and it was just, you know, it was. I
They
mean, that
took
shit.
Yeah, they took Boston hip hop to an international level,
It
and for
took it
that,
international.
and for that, we're all grateful. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
for
Like,
sure,
so,
definitely.
so I want to talk about moving on to the next album, Blast Radius. Would you consider Blast Radius is probably one of your biggest solo albums? Is that like the one you're most known for? I feel like,
Yeah, yeah, that is because
yeah,
and it's because that's the first one where I like working on a record in order to work on the real record. Like I just to if
yeah,
I'm it's just a good way to, you know, the first time you kind of experiment, you got your stuff off your chest
yeah,
and you're doing like weird shit. The next one was more structured. It's like, okay, I want to make this experience, and then I thought about the whole thing from beginning to end, which is
yeah,
why like the titles match the name of the album, and so it
yeah,
just was well thought out. So that one kind of is a good. It encompasses like all the things that I wanted to get off my chest, and without being trendy, and without, you know, with the, you
yeah,
know, in terms of the beats and the content and the rhymes, like,
yeah,
you know, I feel like, but at the same time, I also feel like that album is, you know, not underappreciated, but people don't really know about it like that. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Um, and 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 now I would feel like the album I'm working on next is like a follow up to that album. You
Right.
know, it's gonna kind of be pick up where it left, you know, I left off, but it just all everything all updated. You know, so.
So at this time, it's like what Blast Radius is what 2004 ish.
Yep,
Yeah.
2004.
So, you got good buzz, and then you soon after this make you move to Germany, isn't that correct? Like you moved to
Yeah,
Germany.
yeah. I
You
went
just
on.
pick up and move to Germany. From
Yeah, yep.
Boston, you're in Germany now. Let's talk about why and that whole experience.
Yeah. So around that time, once I released Blast Radius, I started touring a lot. And then I ended up going on tour with Edo, long hot summer tour. It was Edo and
Ace.
Master Ace.
Yep.
And we basically put the set together at my apartment over in Roxbury, and yeah, we went on tour, I think I still had a bunch of stuff lined up. I was constantly traveling, and on that tour, I told Edo I wasn't gonna go home. Like, I didn't. I had this principle, like, not to, own a couch if you want to, be on tour and do things like that. It was basically, that's how I had it. The only thing I had at home was music equipment in the corner and like a futon. So if I came back, I would literally be rehearsing a set. I already had bags packed, and I would just be out. So I went to Europe and basically learned German and was setting up spots on my own to fly to different places and build connections. And kind of that's what I did. And then eventually I was like, shit, I need to live here to kind of really make, unfold shit and make stuff happen. So that's what I did. I ended up hooking up with my man in Paris, and started doing stuff with this label, Aesthetic Music, out there. But he had a label at that. He had a magazine at that time. So I ended up kind of out there building a pretty good network with the magazine and kind of doing the same thing, tour dates and all that stuff. So yeah, that lasted for like about 10 years until iPhone came, and that was the change. So once the Apple developer program came out, I was programming apps and stuff, doing shit like
Yeah.
that on tour.
Right.
And the thing that happened was, like, I was actually programming software to control my set and do things like that. And then I started getting more into manipulating audio and creating experiences, making plugins for software and things like that. But once apps came out in like 2008, I made music production software on the iPhone. I think I had one of the first drum creation software on the iPhone, and I was competing with like Roland and different companies where, I would do a release and they would do a release and stuff like that. And what ended up happening is, while I was out there, I looked at my account one day. It was like 100K in there, and it was because one of the apps that I did. Now, meanwhile, I'd be in the back of the stage, like programming some apps, and some guy would be telling me, "Oh, you can't program software. You'd have to go to school and learn how to, those guys that do that, they really do that. You're Insight, stick to the music." But I'm looking at my account like, damn, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, right.
So I stayed doing that and really didn't take it serious for another 3 years. So
Take music serious or the app serious? Oh, Insight, hold up.
serious more. Yep.
Okay, sorry, we had a little thing. I think we're good now. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was actually a software company calling me right there. But I didn't start taking it serious until like 3 more years later, because I started, the first thing I was trying to do was tie the experience of software to music. I did what I think most artists now, who maybe they have the engineering state of mind, and they're doing music and they want to tie that into some software. The first mistake you make as a musician is thinking that whatever you do in the software is going to attach to the same audience. So for 3 years, I kind of that too. Sorry. So I ended up making up two separate paths, and realized that if you want to make good software and great experiences, you need to focus on making great experiences, and it can't have anything to do with the quality of your music and your music brand and everything like that. They're two different audiences. Same for music. You're making a quality product. You want to make something that's good. It has nothing to do with the software that's connected to it. It's just an example. Movies, right? You might see a blockbuster movie or something, and then they come out with an app, and the app is crap. So that's kind of same philosophy. So yeah, the software I started taking serious like later on, like in 2010 or 11, and once that happened, I started working with Apple and Sony. I did like games for Sony, and like I'm consulting with Bose now, and running like an iOS team and Android team for IBM and things like that.
You worked directly for Bose for a while too, weren't you? Like that was a big job for you, right?
Yeah. So and it made sense because it was in music.
Right. Yeah.
It
Great
was
speakers.
music. It was their headphones. It was it's
What
an
was the
innovative.
Bose? What was the name of the Bose radio with the lines on it, the boombox style? What was that one? That was the
Uh,
famous one.
yeah, I think you're talking about the sound bar that they made.
It wasn't a sound bar. It was just like a unit. It was like one unit. It was a portable unit that you could move around.
Yeah, the first boards. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Those that's pretty.
What was
That's
that
pretty.
called? What was that?
I can't remember. I know
Yeah.
the one you're talking about. But
Yeah.
I mostly worked on the headphones and or
The
like
Wave. The
the
Wave.
wave.
Shout out Brick
Yeah, the
Records. The
wave.
Wave.
Yep. Yeah, that one was they're most known for that one.
Yeah.
And
Great.
the
Stuff.
MC17, like the new noise canceling headphones are good. Um, yeah, Bose,
Love
nothing
Bose.
nothing but good experience there. Just a lot of talented engineers and people passionate about just innovative products. Like it's one of those companies that they really are passionate about the products and just good friends with a lot of the engineers there. And it's funny because the software stuff and the technology is completely separate from my music. So I wanted to look at the software and do quality software separate from the music. But to me, they stimulate me in the same way. Creating music or creating quality software, to me, stimulating the same stuff.
Yeah. So you're basically went on a hiatus as far as releasing music from 2005 till what? 2012, 13?
So I had some alias stuff that I tried to work with other producers
Yeah, let's
and
talk about that because you did a project with was it Damu
yeah, I did a
artist?
project with Damu. I did Shinsai Trio in Japan. We did like 4 of those albums.
Oh,
The
really?
projects with Damu, I did like 3 albums with him.
Or
And that was just me exploring working with other cats. Damu is a funny story because how I met him was when I was on tour, I think 2004 or maybe 2005. I was touring with, who was it? It might have been Edon and Percussions or something. Um,
shout out to them.
yeah, yeah,
That
it's
was
funny.
dope.
The dude,
Dope.
that the drummer, he's actually Roots backup drummer now, which is
Oh,
it's,
word.
yeah, it's funny. So I'll
There's
talk about the
somebody else that drums for the Roots.
yeah, Stro. Like Stro, he's basically the backup drummer for the Roots. We was on tour. He
Wow.
was the opening group for us. Yeah, just on another note, what I find that's funny is before I added the Innovates to the name, it was just
Yeah.
Insight, right? And that gap from doing stuff at that time till now, seeing where people, seeing people kind of evolve from that time to now, it's just interesting because I never really stopped doing music, and I think the quality is still the same. But what happens is some people get ahead of themselves with the ego,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to see that. It's like I just always want to make sure that I keep myself in check so that doesn't happen.
I feel that.
Um,
You changed your name to Insight the Truncator too, though. Before Innovates, we were Insight the Truncator. What was the meaning with that? Why the
So
Truncator?
if you remember in '96 when I put the round table, the
Yeah.
first Nights of the Round Table out,
Yeah.
that was actually that's people used to call me that back then.
Ah.
So the reason why I did it is I kind of went back and forth. It's like, okay, I want to release the first stuff, but then people's gonna not know the name, so I started attaching it to the sound that I put. Like if I put something out that sounded like that from back
Ah.
then, I would put that name on it, and then eventually I'll come out with that album, which I still have the album there, but it has to come out in some meaningful way. The story has to come out with it. I feel like
Right.
there's people wanna they don't want to just see something just released. I would love for the story to come out.
Yeah.
So which is, you know, with Brick, we talk about a lot of stuff that's going to happen, and that may be part of the story in the future to kind of go back to that. So yeah, that's where that came.
Word. Oh, okay.
But
So you basically brought back an old name.
yeah, brought back an old name
Yeah, I
to
thought you were
introduce.
adding. I thought you added it to it because Insight, in the age of Google and in searching, that you needed to add something to it to stand out. That's why I thought you did it.
Yeah, so the Innovates kind of accomplishes that, but
Yeah,
I also thought it kind of encapsulated kind of me more.
yeah,
And now Insight itself is more like a nickname, right?
right,
So it's just like it's more identifiable.
right.
Um, which in retrospect, when I analyzed, the release we just did as opposed to kind of what I did before,
Yeah,
now I can kind of keep track of like who likes what's where stuff's going, and kind of,
right.
even though some people may look at it like it's a step back, I'm
Yeah,
looking at it like, okay, maybe, but if I'm going to continually do releases from this point, it's more like a milestone.
right, right. Now I remember. I remember when we linked up when we were working on the Oak Lone Tree skeleton project, and shout out Glenn, Oak, Egads, all them. You had told me that you were the master plan of what you were sitting on of all this music, and I was like, damn, man, you gotta. I was at that point. This was a couple of years ago. I was like,
Yeah.
man, we need you back, man, because it was crazy shit, and then all of a sudden now there's an album with Edo.G that's out. How did the
Yeah.
Edo? There was a lot of other things before you mentioned this Edo.G. So
Yeah, it's true. That's
let's
true.
talk about the Edo.G project, obviously, because I mean this is a collaboration I think we've all been waiting for a
Yep,
while,
yep.
but in Boston. So talk about
Right.
that. How did it all happen?
So that album, so Edo and I, after that tour we did in the Long Hot Summer tour, we kind of was working on stuff, but we talked about doing an album, but never really kind of got around to it.
Right,
And I've known him a lot of people. I mean, I've known him since I was like 7 or 8. Like,
right.
we lived like 2 streets from it. He knew my cousin and everything, but we kind of, yeah, after that tour, we just got closer. And once the album, once I talked to Pop about putting joints out with Brick, we thought it would be a better way to introduce like a new phase of stuff. And then so yeah, once I started hitting up Ed with like beats and ideas for the album, it just came together quick. I mean, literally, once we actually started picking the beats for the joints, I already had like 5 joints done. Then that weekend, he knocked out like 3 or 4. The next weekend, he knocked out the bunch more. So we was able to put everything together pretty quick.
Yeah, and when you talk about quick, for those who don't know, I've seen this man work in the studio. I mean, he can make a beat, record it, and mix it in what? Hour, 2 hours?
Yeah.
How long does it take? How long
Yeah,
does it take, honestly?
it could take a couple hours, but I mix it.
Listen to that. Record, make the beat, and mix it in a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, times are the essence. I mean, I'm not, I got apps to do and a whole bunch of,
That's insane. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's how that's how your brain works, man. That's what, like your brain is
Appreciate
just like this computer up there, and then just built your own studio. I mean, you built it, did your construction. I saw that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, built the booth,
man, the
wired
new
it
one.
all.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the end goal, like, even with the music, right? When I'm making if I'm making a beat, I'm not just making a beat. I already have a concept in mind, and I'm laying the beat down as I'm mixing it. So when I have to do the final thing, it'll be more like a tweak, right?
Right.
Even the software stuff, like a lot of, although not to contradict what I said earlier, software plans, they get tweaked over time. So I might be working on something that somebody might think is totally unrelated to music. Like if you look at my career as a musician, you may think, oh, he went off and did software. Not really. I went off and understood software so that I can tie it back in at the appropriate time which is gonna yet to be seen, right? So some of that stuff falls in,
Yeah.
now. But if you look back at the history when I started doing stuff in 2003 and 93, in 93, kind of followed the same path. In 93, what happened then? Internet started. In 93, like 2 months in, I worked on a website, one of the first forums for hip hop. And that kind of like was instrument in getting me like a lot of connections and a lot of stuff hip hop wise when I first started, before there was like really any social networks or anything like that.
Yeah.
There were guest books, message boards. That was before like Facebook, because Facebook was like 2000.
Yep.
Facebook was 2004.
Yep.
Before that was MySpace. Before that
Yep.
was Friendster, and before that was BB forums and message boards. So
Yeah. That's
I
what I
kind of
remember.
always, I kind of always stayed ahead of the technology, and
Yeah.
then it seemed like I went and veered off, but it was really part of one big thing. And so it just continues on now. There's a lot of things now that I've done that ties right back into music, but I've also learned not to kind of start talking about it and putting it out there,
Yeah.
as if people are going to catch on. Like,
Yeah.
for example, machine learning, neural networks, and things like that. How does that play back into music? Well, it hasn't reached the tipping point yet, but it does. It's everything that deals with
Yeah.
how you purchase music, how you put music on your device, and how decisions are made. Like some algorithms and neural networks can decide what you like before you will, and even creation software can use machine learning to make better beats and things like that. But it's a whole other. I know it's way out there,
It's out there to me, but it seems like it's right there for you. You know what I mean? Like, we need people like you, like thinking that way. You know what I mean? Thinking outside the box.
Appreciate
You
it,
know what I mean? And
appreciate it.
we don't want it to deter you from making great music, because I think that's the balance that you probably struggle with.
That's exact. You hit it on the nail. That's the,
Yeah, you know.
and now that's kind of one thing. Just on that note, that's kind of why it it feels good to have, like, like it just goes back to like traffic, Brick,
Yep.
and Edo, and just have the network of cats that you can lean on, to balance things out. I might not have operated in the same way before, but now I'm realizing, like, I won't say mistakes, utilize them, and just be more like a team. Like now it's more, going forward, it's more like a team than it was
Yeah.
before. I feel like I had to do everything, but now that balance, I'm leaning kind of, I know I'm the technology guy. I kind of put
Yeah.
stuff together there, and then the team is gonna, we
Yeah.
come together to kind of put releases out like that.
Yeah. And I always emphasize to all artists to have a good team. I think it's very crucial.
Good team is
Um, you
critical.
get more
Yeah,
done. You get more done.
yeah,
Bottom line.
yeah. You get more done. Yep,
So I want to talk about the one thing I also want to talk about. You use the MPC, correct, to make beats?
yep. I got it right here too. I got,
Let's talk about let's talk about the history of the MPC, because I'm sure you know all of this. I was reading a
mhm.
couple things how that, that's at 30 years old that instrument is.
uh, Say what? How many years?
30 years old? Is
Oh
that how
yeah.
old it is?
Okay. Yep. Yeah. I thought you said three. I was like, oh.
No, no, no. And it's a lot of people, they use the MPC, and then there's the what, the SP 1200, that's the other big one to make beats. I
Yeah.
mean, let's talk about why the MPC and how great of a machine it is and why.
Yeah. Yeah. So the MPC, I mean, Akai released one of the first consumer based sampler. Before that, the samplers were huge. Like, they
Right.
had analog samplers that had like little physical pieces of tape that actually recorded, or they were like, huge keyboards that, only studios usually had them, that allowed you to loop things, but never a consumer sampler like the S900 or the S950 and the S1000. There was a like rack mounted sampler that you could use and sample and assign to keys and things like that. So yeah, Kai, they first brought in the consumer based rack mounted samplers that you can assign, you could trigger with MIDI keys, like keyboard keys.
Yep.
So, and then you mentioned the SP. The SP really was like a drum, just for drum sounds, and never really appreciated the hip hop community. It was more like, the rock music, rock studios would use it for drums. It was intended for that, but then the hip hop, community started using it for drums and everything, and there's a whole history there. But I would combine them. I would have the SP, and I would MIDI that up to the Akai and trigger stuff. Well, that was my second setup. First, I would MIDI it up with the Prophet 2000, which is a whole nother thing.
Prophet, what did the Prophet 2000 do? Can we talk about the Prophet 2000? I've never heard of the Prophet 2000.
Let me explain this. The Prophet 2000 was like, it wasn't, you didn't have, so for the non, musicians,
Yeah.
when you create a sequence of music, you put you create the drums just like you would make a pattern. Like you'd have your kick, boom, boom, and you put it together, and you have like a drum. The Prophet 2000 didn't have, like, you couldn't place your drum kicks where you wanted to. You had to hit 8 sounds, and it'll play it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and go back to the beginning. So I literally had to sample every sound that had to be in those 8 positions to like lay in the right place. So it had to be like kick, sample, hi-hat, snare. So it literally like, so like 8 sounds. So that right there forced me to like innovate with how I was putting the sounds together, because I couldn't say, oh, this sample starts at the beginning,
right?
I had to kind of like piece together with the stuff that I had, and that moving things around, I kind of stayed with me all the way till now. So I don't look at the beat like maybe like a lot of producers. They just they take something on the one or wherever it is, and then take drums and they layer it. I look at sounds individually and try to give it swing and this flinchy feel, even when I edit the micro part on a particular piece of the beat. If that means anything.
Wow. You lost me, but it sounds fucking cool.
I know that's kind of, it's way out there, but if you stop this interview and rewind it, and then you go listen to the music, you start hearing layers of sound that, they fit each other, and kind of things come together well because of that. I'm thinking of how things are layered, and and the swing and everything like that. Yeah,
it's dope. It's dope. And your beats have always been crazy. Your lyrics have always been crazy, and yeah, man. And I'm glad that the music is coming back out. I know you got some other, I know you got other things in the works. What else do you got coming up? I know it's a big plan. It's a big plan.
There's a lot of stuff. So I got a VR album that I did with Ed, with the current album, but the VR it's like, that album is interesting because in VR you can kind of look around and you're listening to the album with us, so we're going, grab.
You're saying virtual. He says VR. He means virtual reality.
Virtual reality, right? Yeah. So you experience the album with us, and then we have some Easter eggs too that we're working on. We actually recorded it, and then it felt we wanted to make it right. So then Edo and I discussed doing it like, now we got to make it better. So now we're doing that. After that, there's a bunch of Insight solo shit with Brick, and I don't want to have the gap, in releases. No. So there are other releases that we're gonna do, in between, the physical releases, because physical, for a lot of people that don't know, the wait time can be pretty long.
And you've always been big into pushing vinyl. I remember we talked about that. You are a big fan of still putting stuff out on vinyl.
Yeah, because I look at vinyl. I love vinyl. I like having it, and I'm still, something feels good about having
physical.
It still feels like yeah, I gotta have, you know what I mean? I think people still feel that today is why vinyl is still important.
Yeah,
Um,
crazy.
di yeah, digital is cool, but I feel like digital has yet to match the sentimental value, and I think sentimental value and digital means you have to have other mechanisms to keep people enticed, which is why I went into software again.
Do
Um,
you feel like the NFTs and all that stuff is really beneficial to making digital better? Do you subscribe to
My
that?
opinion, so I know a lot more about NFTs than the average person. So
Oh,
I have a,
I believe that.
yeah. So, so, so NFTs, how can I speak on that without going too technical? Blockchain technologies, which attach like a physical product to an actual unique identifier, means that you can have a digital release that's just yours that relates to something specific. Now, it might be the right direction, but I don't think NFTs by themselves is the solution. There's a lot of flaws in NFTs, in my opinion.
What are the
Firstly,
flaws? What are the flaws?
yes, one flaw in NFTs is basically uh, when you're promised like a digital asset that goes along with a purchase. The question is, who's storing that asset, and what happens if it's no longer available on the web? You've just bought currency on a blockchain that links to nothing anymore. So there's no regulation as far as that goes. So let's
Hmm.
say like 5,000 people pay certain amount of Bitcoin, or
Yep.
some crypto for some NFT, some crazy amount. You're literally linking to some file somewhere that's unregulated. It's literally on somebody's server. That file can get deleted. It can get corrupted. Who's regulating the link? You know what I mean? So once it's gone, um, the way that blockchains work is it blockchains link to like a physical new digital piece of data. So if you upload another copy of this thing, um, it's not, it now has a new identifier. It's a different thing now. So there's that's one of the problems with
Just
that's
one.
that's one of the problems with NFT. And have you ever tried to actually upload the NFTs?
I have
It's
not
like,
done any of it. There's been this craze of NFTs everywhere, and I'm just
yeah,
like,
that's
let
because,
me see how
yeah,
this works out.
yeah, that
I'm
the PR companies pushing
crazy.
the NFTs are involved with their own NFTs and their own ecosystem. So it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
it's tough. You see, like, for example, uh, NBA, right? So you saw all the buzz about the NFTs that the NBA had,
Yeah.
and Mark Cuban, he's funding the same companies as pushing, the PR for all that stuff, and they own the service that's you're buying them from. So it's just
Yeah.
like, who's regulating all that? You know what I mean? And once you start
That and
real,
cryptocurrency too, right?
yeah, so it's just, if you think about stocks, like what would happen in stocks if I'm the owner of the company. I know that I want to inflate the stock, so I go out and say, hey, like I go out and I buy the Boston Celtics, and then I say, hey, we're inventing something that's gonna take the Boston Celtics to space, and now I'm the owner and telling everybody to do that. It starts going up, and everybody starts using the service. So it's like, is NFTs popular because everybody can benefit, or because the whole ecosystem is getting some kind of PR? It's not, there's not regulated links. The services are like
Yeah.
not consistent. If you try to upload NFTs on your own, you'll find it to be quite challenging. If you had a problem, no support, no email. It's kind of, and
Yeah,
then
definitely no cut. Yeah, definitely no customer service. I can't even get anybody at Spotify. You know
oh.
what I mean? Or Facebook. Maybe I get a Facebook call back.
Yeah, yeah, which is that this we can have a whole separate
Oh yeah.
conversation about the software companies kind of changing the direction of music. and they had nothing to do with the music industry before that point, you
Right.
know, before their beginning. So
Yeah.
I feel in order for like music companies to evolve, they have to become software companies. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
It's fair.
you know, because if we let the other thing, I kind of said that in 2007, and now in retrospect, it kind of was true because the companies that weren't in software became music companies. You know, all the companies that just, you know, if you look at, you know, I remember when I was in Germany, the cats from SoundCloud, they was trying to hire me to work for SoundCloud, and I was working on pub views, and kind of that kind of always happened. People, you know, Instagram would, you know, contact me to work on stuff, and I'd be working on the same thing on my own or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the thing is, like, it could, those companies, you know, usually start off with like one or two guys that had nothing to do with the music industry, just came up with an idea and figured out they're going to
Yeah.
charge X, Y, Z. And now we have the music industry that we have, influenced all by software companies, people that didn't control
Yeah.
anything. So, you know, artists, labels, you know, have to kind of look more into software and lead those efforts. And that's kind of back to why now I added Innovates to my whole thing.
Well, that's a great way to end it right there, man. I want to really thank you for coming through, man. And I love the new album that you and Edo.G, the album out now, and I look forward to hearing more, man. Now that you're back at it, we're all happy about that. So, I want to thank.
appreciate
Go ahead.
Appreciate it, man. I mean, we go back. I mean, you know, I know you for so many years. Like,
Yeah,
even you were booking shows for
yeah.
me when I was like in Europe, like,
When
you
you had
know,
dreads.
yeah, yeah, right there.
Yeah, you had dreads, man.
Yeah,
Cool, man.
good
I look
thing.
forward to building some more. We're going to keep building. And want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Leeds Edutainment podcast with special guest Insight Innovates. Salute, brother.
Peace.
All right. Take care.